Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I am Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in East London. You can find me online on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm on Ravelry as Nikki Hippie, and you can find our group on Ravelry if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab. Anything I mentioned will be linked just down below, and if you would like to see the full show notes, they will be available on my blog, which will also be linked just down there. It has been some time since I've been sat down here with you. I think the last podcast I did was like November. Every year I have grand intentions of podcasting up to Christmas, and unfortunately it never works out like that. I do work full time, and so I only really have the weekends to podcast. And obviously Christmas is a very busy time, and I think basically every single weekend in December I either had people staying, I went and stayed with other people, or I was going out and I didn't get home till well after I'd lost the light. So unfortunately it just didn't happen. That's the second kind of December in a row where that's happened. So I think I need to let go of my expectations slightly and accept that probably this year I may do Vlogmas, but otherwise that's probably all I'm going to be capable of. But I did manage to do the intro there really quickly. So, hey, I guess I haven't quite lost it. I would like to say a massive welcome to any new viewers. Thank you so much for giving me and the podcast a shot. And to my lovely returning viewers, thank you so much for waiting for me while I was away during December and coming back and spending some time with me. Today's tea in my lovely Hufflepuff mug, you will not be surprised to hear, is Earl Grey. It's my old favourite and I'm sipping away. It's a bit of a grey day today, but it's just chilly and a bit grizzly out, so it's quite nice to have a nice warming mug of my favourite tea. I have lots to talk about today, not as much knitting as I would have hoped given that I haven't seen you in so long, but we'll get into why that is when we get into Whipped Up. But before I kick off the podcast proper, I would like to talk about the best year ever Cal. This was my very first knit along and I did it for the entirety of 2017. Looking back, that was probably biting off more than I could chew, and I did struggle with it a little bit. However, I am so glad that I did it. I really enjoyed knitting all the happy making things that I did, and I hope that you did too. This morning I closed a thread, which was a little later than I had planned when I started the Cal, but given that a year had passed, you know, I couldn't really plan for what I was doing this January. But this morning I pulled my 4 winners. So before we dive into the podcast proper, I am going to share them with you. If I call your name, please do get in touch with me on Ravelry via direct message. I am Nikki Hippie, and let me know your address and all that information so that I can get it posted out to you as soon as I can. The first prize I have to give away is this gorgeous yarn and project bag combo. The yarn is from Counting Sheep and the project bag is from Mrs. S Creations. And this goes to post number 41, Elise and Life. So do get in contact with me and I will get this posted out to you. Next up are 2 gorgeous skeins of yarn, this one from Studio C and this one from the Yarn Collective. And this goes to post 103 Nadira Tony, and if you could get in contact with me, I'll get them posted out to you. Next up is another project bag and yarn combo, this time from Cozy Cute Knits. This cute little panda project bag that I think is just adorable, and some more gorgeous yarn from Counting Sheep. This is to post number 55, Yarn Taxi Driver. Get in contact. Last but by no means least are these 2 fun skeins of yarn. This one is Ella Ray and this one is Mirasol, and I just think they're really unusual, really fun colours, and yeah, they're just gorgeous, and I can't wait to see what you make with them. And who will be making something out of these gorgeous skeins of yarn, I hear you ask. This very last prize goes to post number 8, Catman and Robin. Do get in touch and I'll get these out to you as soon as I can. And don't forget to tag me because I'd love to see what you make with these. Whew, there we go. That is all the prizes for the best year ever Cal. As you have no doubt guessed, I will not be running a year-long knit along this year in 2018. Instead, I have plans for about 3. knit-alongs this year, which I'm really excited by. They're going to be much shorter and therefore I hope a little bit easier to keep on top of. And if you would like to know more, if you would like to donate a prize for one of those, do get in touch with me or keep an eye on the podcast when I start talking about them. I'm going to give myself a little break after such a long knit-along, and I'm looking at maybe March for the first one. But now let's move on to Whipped Up. As I alluded to at the top of the episode, I don't have loads of knitting to share with you. And the reason for that is because apart from the fact that December was crazy and I was out and about so much, and you know, I'm not a sock knitter, so I have nothing to take along with me sometimes. We'll come to that. But yes, I became absolutely obsessed with two projects. I was going to say one, but two projects. And they got all my attention when I had it to give. No doubt you have already heard about this if you are already a viewer of Inside Number 23 or the Stranded podcast, because Katie and Amy and I did an advent calendar swap. So yeah, I had 24 lovely mini skeins from Katie and Amy, 12 from Katie, 12 from Amy, and I opened one up every day and it was just such an absolute joy. It was such a lovely gift to give each other, and I think we're going to make it a tradition, an annual tradition, and I'm already kind of looking at mini skeins and thinking I could start squirreling them away now. And yeah, it was just gorgeous, and I think that both Amy and Katie have said on their podcast how lovely it was, and you know, it's nice to have a little something to unwrap every day. But where did all these Advent minis go, I hear you ask? Well, if you are a long time viewer of the podcast, you will remember that I cast on a Cozy Memories blanket back in the last few months, I guess, of 2016. And I fully embraced the fact that this was going to take me several years, just because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of minis. But this is where all of my Advent minis have gone into. So I'll just pick it up. I am, as you can probably see, just in the middle of a square here. I haven't woven in any ends for a while. I wove in the first, I was going to say first two rows, but I think it's only the first row that I've woven in. So I'm not going to show you the back. Just look at the front and look how gorgeous it is. But yeah, so the end of last year, I hadn't finished putting all my Opal Advent Calendar yarns in here, so that's something that I need to get on. And I finished here last year, this pink square here. So, and again, I'm going to throw it over my back, which is very familiar because this is what I used to do way back at the very beginning. This one here, this gorgeous Hufflepuff colour, this was my very first skein for my Advent swap, and it goes all the way down here, all the way, and now you can see all my ends. And there you go, just the last one at the end there. I got two just here, gorgeous stranded squares, and I'm just working the next row. Just pick it back up again. So the next row are these ones here. And I have got about 5 more to put into this. It was just something that I picked up and did a little bit of work on. Unfortunately, I was a little bit sick the couple of days running up to Christmas Day, which is always the way. I'm absolutely fine. I'm running around like a crazy person, and then the moment I stop for actual Christmas, I get sick. So I didn't do too much work on it and I got a bit behind. And I really, really want to finish up these minis before I dive properly into any other projects, just because I want to get a big chunk of this done. These Advent minis have made this so much more blanket-like. It's only 4 squares long and it's 15 squares wide. So this is going to take me a really, really long time. My plan is to finish up this row because the last few will take me to the end of the row, and then I'm going to do a big weaving in end sesh, and then I'll probably fold it up and put it away for a little while. And my plan is to just throughout the year, every now and again, pop on a square here and there. As I say, I've got all my Opal Advent Calendar yarns still to go in this. But yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's so lovely, as I said, to have just here. I've got some stranded dye works. I think I've got another stranded one in here somewhere. Where is it? I think, yeah, This one here is Magpie. I've got my very first Hedgehog's Fibres, which is this one here in singles. This is my very first singles. And I've got my very first Woolen Vine, which is this gorgeous one here. Again, this is singles. I never thought I would like singles. But this is so lovely. I love it so much. I really enjoyed knitted with singles on this one and on the red hedgehog yarns just here. This is Villain. And this Woolen Vine is Fairy Hair. And if I could get a sweater quantity of Fairy Hair, I would knit the Light Trails by Suvi Samola because this is stunning. How gorgeous would this be? Oh, just lovely, just lovely. So I might later in the year keep an eye out and see if I can get a sweater quantity, not in singles, but in one of her other bases. So cross your fingers that I might get lucky. The second project that I was talking about is living in this gorgeous project bag here. This was made for me by Rachel of the Crafty Historian podcast. She is my pen pal as well as a fellow podcaster, so she sent me this gorgeous little bag for Christmas. And yes, I am working on a granny stripe blanket. So far, I'm almost caught up. I started this off not with one of my mini skeins. I started off with the blue that I had left over from my mum's Colour Affection that I made for her out of some stranded dye works. So I started off with that, and then I put in all of my Advent minis, and this is gorgeous. I find that with my Cozy Memories blanket, I often have some left over, and I've been waiting for ages thinking, something will come to me, I'll be able to do something with these, and this is perfect. This is such a fantastic grab and go. When I was not feeling well, this is what I worked on because I didn't have to think about any decreases or anything like that. I could just go. So I think when I put all my Advent minis, when I put all of them into this, I still have a lot left over from the squares that I'd already put into my Cozy Memories blanket, so I'm going to make those up into a magic ball and put them into this, and this will be my kind of chill project. I love this so much. I'm totally okay with the fact that these two projects are both going to take me a really long time. I imagine this will take me slightly less, but I do want to put things into my Cozy Memories before they go into this. I mean, that's how I currently feel. I might change my mind on that. But I just love this so, so much. I think it's just beautiful. And whoever started the whole fingering weight granny stripe obsession, thank you, because this is lovely. I also really like being able to see how these minis knit up compared to how they crochet. Because, you know, the striping down here in the Hufflepuff colourway is really different to how it looks knitted up, and yeah, I just think it's lovely, and I can't wait to have this to snuggle under. It's going to be lovely. Lovely Rachel, who sent me the bag, also sent me some minis to go into my mini skein projects, which is fantastic. And she sent me this gorgeous, is this still a mini? It's like a chunky mini of Nora George, and it is Mrs. Fig of Wisteria Walk. And I have a big Harry Potter chunk of my blanket planned, so that will be going into that bit. It just makes me so happy to have these things because, as I say, I get to try out yarns that I don't really have access to otherwise. I really can never get my hands on Woolen Vine. I never get round to getting any Nora George, so it's fantastic to get to try these amazing yarn dyers, even if it's just on a mini scale. And I definitely want to try and get myself a sweater's quantity of Fairy Hair because I just think it's beautiful. And I'm not even a pink person, but I think I found my pink. The other thing that I have been working on is my Pavement. I'm going to hold up my Pavement for you because I think you're going to be surprised by the progress that I've made. If this looks very similar to how it looked when I first showed it off, that's because it is. I finished the yoke and I separated for the sleeves, and I did about 1 inch of the body, and then I put it onto waist yarn and tried it on, and it fit perfectly, as in it fit quite closely. I could have carried on knitting it and it would have fit, However, I don't want a close fitting hand knit jumper. I wanted one that was a little bit looser, so I went up a size. So I spent the Christmas holiday re-knitting the yoke, which I have just finished, not that you can tell, on this very short circular. And this weekend, I'm going to tear myself away from my Advent minis and pop the divide for the sleeves and start working on the body, because then it's just round and round and round and round, and that's fantastic. And this is knit out of Stranded Dye Works in the Industrial Kingfisher colourway, and I love it. The alternating skeins is going really, really well. I'm actually quite glad I unpicked, because I found that I've never alternated skeins before and it was a little bit loose and not quite as neat as I would have liked it, so I was able to do that again. It's not perfect, it's my first time, so I'm not going to beat myself up about it, and I think it will be totally wearable when I'm finished, and I just think these are so my colours. I just love them so much, and I can't wait to wear this. So yeah, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, why have I not been working on this more? I do think, depending on how this turns out, I do think that I'm going to make another Pavement, because it's such a lovely knit. I really, really like how the yoke increases just look so neat and gorgeous. And I think I might do one in a more solid colour, so that I've got kind of two to choose from, because if this works out how I'm planning it to, it's going to be incredibly wearable. On a side note, the amount of times I've opened up my project bag and I've lost a load of stitches off the needles because it's a circular, and I try and I squish it down and I pull my needles out, but obviously in transit, shoo. Is there a circular needle point endy thing that you can keep the ends together on, or do I just need to get normal point protectors? How am I going to stop losing stitches on this? Beyond picking it up every day and not just schlepping it around and still picking up your crochet blanket. That would probably work, Nikki. I have a tiny bit of stash enhancement to share with you. I didn't get much yarn for Christmas. I feel like people are scared to buy me yarn in case they get the wrong thing, but I have dropped some very heavy hints that I'm quite happy to have Wild and Woolly vouchers, because Katie and Amy and I discovered that it is within walking distance, a long walk, but walking distance of my flat. So I now have a local yarn shop, which just makes me so happy, because visiting Wild and Woolly was absolutely gorgeous. Anna is lovely, and Anna Maltz was there, and she is also fantastic. And yeah, it made me so happy to have such a gorgeous place right on my doorstep. So yeah, I've got a couple of bits and pieces to show you. The first is a Christmas present from Katie, who at the end of my advent calendar popped in a full skein. And once again, it's a new to me skein, because I've never knit with Homespun House before, and this is gorgeous. It reminds me a little bit of Industrial Kingfisher, but the colours are very, very slightly different. It's got the blues and the rusts that I really love. I love wearing blue, as you may have noticed, but I don't like how much blue I have in my wardrobe, so having these pops of orange, which I really do love as well, just lifts the whole thing, and I really like having this. And this is kind of just going to live in my stash for a little while, be my little yarn pet, until I figure out what I want to do with it. I'm kind of thinking Stephen West. I still really want to make something by Stephen West, and I'm not sure what yet, but maybe this goes into the potential Stephen West pile. Next up was a little treat that I got myself from Wild and Woolly. Even though I shouldn't have bought anything, I bought myself this West Yorkshire Spinners. It's from their bird collection, and this is the blue tit. Although it doesn't say that on there. I'm just assuming from how it looks that this is blue tit, and I think it's gorgeous. Blue tits are my favourite birds. I have this little beaded necklace that breaks down the colours of them as well, and I just love them. I think they're beautiful creatures, and I want to knit some socks, because I keep talking about knitting socks and not actually getting around to knitting socks. I find Magic Loop kind of slow, but I do like working in the round. So I picked up a new pair of needles from Wild and Woolly as well, which I have put down and now can't find. But I believe it's the Addy ones, where one needle is longer and one is shorter, so you can just go round, but without them being the teeny tiny short needles. So I'm going to give it a go on that. I'm also going to try the new crazy trios that Addy is doing. I'm on the wait list to get some, and those are like DPNs but with a teeny tiny bit of cable in the middle so that they're a little bit more flexible. So I'm going to give those a go because I just think I love Magic Loop, but it's really slow. And I quite like just going round and round and round and round and round. So yeah, I think that is what I'm going to do. And also if those work, I'm going to pick up my colourwork mittens again, because literally the only issue I had with the mittens was the magic looping. I was really struggling with the colourwork on Magic Loop. So yeah, I'm just going to flop this around a little bit more. So that's one of my goals for this year, is to master socks. Even if I don't become a sock knitter, I would like to have a couple of pairs by the end of the year that I have knit myself, because I think it's a skill that eludes me and it makes me sad. I also want to get really comfortable with working in a small circumference for mittens and, you know, for sleeves, things like that. So I need to figure out my small circumference knitting and how I'm comfortable doing that. Also this year, I am taking part in the Make 9 challenge. You've probably seen it going around on Instagram, and I decided to get involved because this year I want to be more selfish. I want to knit for myself, and I particularly want to knit garments. And I'm going to make a confession here. I'm really intimidated by garments, and that's why I don't really knit them. I finished my Hortensia, and I didn't show it off on the podcast because it's fine. You know, I've made it, it looks fine, but I don't love it. And the reason I don't love it is because I picked something that was very like what I used to wear several years ago. I was really into wearing like skinny jeans, a close fitting like t-shirt or vest, and then a cropped cardigan. I don't really dress like that anymore, so it didn't really fit my current wardrobe. So I'm a little bit like, that was probably, I could have made something else. So my plan for this year is to pick things that I will actually wear now, that I will wear and love. And my plan is, by the time I've made all of these garments, that the last garment will be better than the first garment, because practice. Of my Make 9 this year, 5 of them are knitted, and I've got them jotted down in my bullet journal just here. And the first one is the Kerrytown Pullover by Annie Lupton. And I loved this when Katie was knitting it, and then when I saw it in the flesh, in the wool, when I saw it in real life, I fell in love with it, and I think I would get so much wear out of it. And I love the mustard she did it in, but I'm always a bit wary of wearing mustard, so I think pine green might be good for me. The other one I really want to make is May by Andrea Mowry, because I think that's just going to look great layered over leggings, which is what I live in. Then the Gingerbread by Libby Johnson, who is truly myrtle. I have got the yarn for this, and I've had it for a year, and I just haven't got around to casting it on. So that is going on my needles. I want to do the Leap Year Cardigan by Subi Samola because it's longer line, and it's just that shape that I currently really enjoy wearing and is a good layering piece. And also by Subi Samola, I want to make light trails because I love Amy's, and I really wanted to make it in Begonia Leaf by Madeline Tosh, but unfortunately they're discontinuing that colourway, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Fairy Hair by Wool and Vine would be an awesome substitute, or potentially Charred Plum from Stranded Dye Works. So I'm kind of tossing up there which way I want to go with that one. Before I work on any of those though, I want to knit my Pavement, and I have the Campside Cardigan that I want to make out of Willow and Lark as well. So I'm going to get those 2 done first and then embark on the other 5, which would bring me up to a total of 7 finished jumpers this year, which is a lot for a non-garment knitter. So I have no illusions whatsoever, but I think if I could make half, if I could make 3 or 4, that would be amazing. And whatever I do, I'm going to be really proud of myself. The other 4 of my Make 9 are all sewing projects, and I've got a couple from Tilly and the Buttons. I want to do the Coco and the Agnes. Again, just because I think that they are the kinds of things that I actually wear. I love wearing knits, and I love wearing like those close fit little tops because they're great for layering. I love to layer. Next, I want to do the Emmeline Tee by Little Tailoress because, again, it's so versatile, and I can wear it under a jumper, I could wear it with a cardigan, I could wear it on its own, I could do various versions for like dress up and casual, so that would be great. And the last one that I want to make is the Farrow Dress by Grey Line Studios. I just really would like to make that, and I think it might make quite a cute Christmas dress. So there you go, those are all my plans for 2018. At the moment I'm very much focused on clearing out what I'm currently working on. So as I said, I want to get all of my Advent minis into my Cozy Memories blanket. I'm then going to make up a magic ball with what's left and just pop that in with my crochet granny stripe, because then if I ever just want something mindless, I can just hook away on that and be quite happy. And I want to then focus completely on my pavement and really get that finished, and my campsite cardie, and then we'll look at Mech 9. Yeah, I'm seeing a flaw in this plan already, but you know, I have hope. Aim high, guys. Aim high. But now let's move on to a bit of knit and natter. I'm starting to lose the light, which is ridiculous considering it's barely past lunchtime. But hey, welcome to January, guys. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my week because I have been a bit of a lucky bean this week. I was at work on Wednesday and Rich phoned me, and actually I was away from my desk so I didn't answer it, and he had to send me this text going, please ring me as soon as you can, but nothing bad has happened. And I phoned him, and it turned out that we had tickets to Cirque du Soleil, the opening night no less, so for that night, Wednesday evening. And basically a friend of ours worked on putting the set together and managed to get very cheap tickets, and we went and saw Cirque du Soleil like that, really last minute. You know, it was only a few hours between hearing and going, and it was amazing. It was so magical. It's their new show called Ovo, which is at the Royal Albert Hall, and as I said, we were there for the opening night, so there was like a red carpet and there were loads of celebs going in, being papped, going in and out, which was really quite funny. But yeah, the show was absolutely incredible. It started off with these like fire ants doing this juggling with their feet, and they had like these kiwis, and they've got, I'm gonna put my tea down, but they had them like on their feet, and they're just kind of going like this, making them go round and round, and then they're throwing them up and they're catching them and they're spinning them around. And then they started doing that with each other. So they'd have their feet up, and then there'd be someone else with their feet up on their feet with then the little kiwi thing that it was insane. I was literally there like, this is not possible. I don't understand how people do this. And then there was a guy who was a dragonfly who was doing all this kind of like contortion stuff, and it was really beautiful. And the acrobats were wow. There was like, I think so there's 4 guys. There's one here, two facing each other like that, and then 2 more facing each other. And then the ones in the middle that were back to back were like throwing the girls over their heads and catching them from behind, and nobody got dropped. Nobody got dropped, nobody got hurt, nobody missed anything. It was insane. There was a guy who was doing all this like crazy juggling with the Diablo. There was the grasshoppers at the end, and they would like jump off the wall, hit the trampoline, and then run back up the wall. And all of these things, I was just sat there like, I don't understand. I don't understand how people do this. Oh, and there was like another acrobatic performance that was the traditional kind of male-female, where they were like spinning around and like holding each other and doing all this crazy stuff. And then halfway through, they switched. So we're really used to seeing the guy holding the girl, and then the girl's hanging on, and she's flipping him all around. And I was just like, what? Because she was quite dainty looking, and he was massive. And I was just like, I can't believe how strong this woman is. She is like, she's actually Wonder Woman to be able to do this. It was just, if you can't tell, it was mind blowing. I could not believe the things I was seeing. I was constantly there like, yeah. I probably looked like an absolute idiot because I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I'm just I feel so lucky that I managed to get tickets to go and see this, because it was something I never thought that I'd be able to get hold of tickets for. And I've never seen a Cirque du Soleil performance live. I've seen them do things like the Royal Variety Show, but I've never seen them live. So that was, yeah, it was just really cool. And if you can go to see it, it's their new show, Ovo. Yeah, I would definitely go and see it. The one thing I would say is like the stuff in between, like the comedy, so that the other people can be setting up for the next kind of acrobatic thing, is the kind of the weakest part of the show. It's a bit slapstick, it's not actually my humour, and that's kind of one criticism that I would level at it. All the kids that were around us loved it, so hey, you're winning, really. And the other thing that was really strange was the egg thing doesn't really go anywhere. But, you know, these are fairly minor criticisms in the face of just how stunned we all were by what we were seeing, because it was genuinely just magical, just absolutely magical, and I heartily recommend you go and see it. Well, that's it for this week, guys. To everyone who won a prize at the top of the episode, please do drop me a direct message on Ravelry. I'm Nikki Hippie, and just let me know your address so I can get it sent out to you. If I don't hear from you by kind of mid-February, I'm gonna kind of assume that you don't want it, and I will put it back into the prize box for a later cow. I hope you have a lovely week. I will see you very, very soon for another cup of tea. Take care, bye. Just realised that my necklace was on backwards the whole time, so I flipped it round. We don't have any continuity here, guys, so hopefully you won't notice so much.